This week, Mike dives into his video game shoebox and comes up with a copy of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Jonny chats to Dontnod about their new project Vampyr, which is something very different to Life is Strange. And we celebrate the 20th anniversary of one of gaming's leading ladies, Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week remasters and re-releases are flavour of the month. Konami has confirmed the Metal Gear Solid 5 Definitive Experience, which will include Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, The Phantom Pain, and all DLC for both single-player games, plus Metal Gear Online. It's due to hit in early October for PS4, Xbox One, and Windows PC, and if it does prove to be the last piece of the Metal Gear Solid 5 release, marks the end of Hideo Kojima's involvement with the publisher. We're also hearing stories about a new Assassin's Creed bundle, the SE4 collection, which looks like it'll feature Assassin's Creed 2, Revelations, Brotherhood, all DLC, and the animated films Ember and Lineage. Ubisoft has kept pretty quiet on the topic, but retail artwork has popped up and the game's title has emerged as part of a Korean Game Rating Board database update, so it seems pretty likely. Something that's definitely happening, however, Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary Edition World Tour, officially revealed by Gearbox at PAX West last weekend.
Die, you son of a bitch. Damn, shake it, baby. It's time to abort your whole friggin' species.
Set to launch on October 11 for PS4, Xbox One, and Windows PC, this new edition features both the original 1996 landmark FPS, as well as a stack of new, never-before-seen content, including an all-new episode featuring 8 original levels by the original designers of Duke Nukem 3D, a collection of all-new original music, new one-liners from the Duke himself, John St. John, developer commentary, and a graphical upgrade that you can use if you want to. It's not a whole game, but in the spirit of these remasters, we have to mention that all 16 multiplayer maps from Call of Duty 4 are being remastered for inclusion in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. If you want in on that action, you'll need to pick up the Legacy, Legacy Pro, or Digital Deluxe version of the upcoming FPS, which is due out in November. Just quietly though, we wouldn't be too surprised if Activision does release these later as standalone DLC, so maybe keep an eye out in the first half of 2017, after the holidays. And while I would love to wrap up this re-release conversation by giving you something you really want, I am instead the bearer of bad news. EA's Peter Moore has announced that the publisher is focused on delivering for the future and isn't keen on revisiting the past, so that Mass Effect re-release bundle we'd all been hanging out for looks like it won't be happening. Sorry. At least we've still got Andromeda due out in March, right? Time for some Pokemon Go news, because there is still no escaping the smartphone sensation. The team at Niantic keeps updating the game, and while some of those updates have removed certain features, the next one should bring something big with it. The new Buddy system introduces a new way to earn candy rather than having to catch endless duplicate Pokemon in order to rank up your favourites. The system is simple. Pick a Pokemon from your collection to be your buddy, and as you walk around, they will earn candy for you, as well as adding helpful bonuses, unique in-game rewards, and other experiences. Before you ask, the buddy system will use the same distance calculations as the one used for eggs, which may or may not be particularly accurate, but at least it's consistent. More details soon, with the update reportedly right around the corner for both Android and iPhone. Another update that is right around the corner sees indie darling Firewatch headed to Xbox One, and that platform is getting a few nifty updates before the already released PC and PS4 versions. Expect a developer commentary-styled audio tour to accompany the game at launch on September 1, and a free roam mode following shortly after.
How'd you get fired and wind up in jail all on your first day, Henry? I thought it'd be a good idea to chuck some Roman candles into a smoldering fire pit, where regular forest burns.
If you are already playing on PC or PS4, don't worry, these extras will be added to your game as well a little while later. And don't think that Nintendo's forgotten about the 3DS. A recent Nintendo Direct has revealed a stack of new games coming to the handheld, including Mario Sports Superstars, Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, complete with a Yarn Poochie amiibo, and, wait for it, a new Pikmin. And if that's not enough, Super Mario Maker is finally headed to 3DS as well, due out in December and mostly compatible with the Wii U version. EVE Online dropped a bombshell this week, revealing that the long-running MMO is going free to play. The shift will see the game introduce 2 clone states. There's the Alpha clone state, which is the default, able to train and use a specific set of skills, ships, weapons, and modules. Then there's the Omega clone state, which is a basic clone augmented to give unlimited skill access. For veteran EVE players, the Omega clone will behave exactly as your subscribed character does now, while the Alpha clone is the more stripped-back version. Basically, if you want to play the game that's always been there, you will still need to keep paying your subscription. But if you're happy with a slightly less shiny version, there's a freebie option now too. And on the movie side of things, we have some sad news this week. After what seems like an eternity of development hell, countless directors, writers, and rumoured leading men, Sony has dropped the Uncharted movie from its upcoming release calendar. The last we'd heard had The Adventures of Nathan Drake pinned to a June 30th release for next year, but now it's fallen away with no replacement named. However, with new writer Joe Carnahan from The Grey and Narc on board just a little over a month ago, we're hoping that the project's just been put on ice for a little while and not been scrapped completely. For more information on any of these stories or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
Overnight, my world has changed. The gnawing hunger inside me. Every night, it must be appeased. The thing I've become. A vampire.
As you may be able to see, we are taking it back to old London to talk about Vampyr. Guys, why London?
Why London? Because it's a perfect city for Vampyr. There is fog. There is rain, it's gloomy, so since we tried to create a game that has a very gothic atmosphere, London was the perfect town for us.
Who are you and what are you doing in London?
You're Dr. Jonathan Reed. You're a doctor who just came back from the war. It's old London, but not Victorian London. It's just after the First World War, during the Spanish flu, which is the worst pandemic the world has ever known. And it's a difficult, trying time for humanity, and it's a time ripe for the vampire to strike again. And as it happens, you are one of them. You are one of the predators.
So, a vampire that's also a doctor. This spells moral decisions and implications. Do you guys want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, in fact, for us it was interesting because, the beginning of the 20th century was an era when science was becoming, I would say, more relevant than superstition and old superstitions. So it was very interesting for us to create a main character who has scientific background and who's turned against his own will into a vampire and who has now to accept his new condition. Throughout the game, he will try to have, I would say, a scientific analysis on his new condition. He considers vampirism as a disease, and he would like to find a cure. But that's not that easy because he has to kill to survive. Just to survive each night, he has to kill. So his problem is he tries to stay human and to heal the sick people because of the Spanish flu. And at the same time, he has to murder some of them in order to survive as a vampire. So the game is really about that, I would say, ambiguous morality. You have to pick up your targets, and that's what a vampire has to do.
It's really about the duality of the hero. First, is a human who struggles with this new nature of vampire, and it's about science, who just kind of killed God with all the advances it made. And this is really what Dr. Reed believes, but he's faced with something mystical again. He has to question everything.
So how does this ambiguous morality play into the gameplay?
Well, there is a very easy rule for that. To take the life of a citizen, it's much more rewarding in terms of experience point. You see, so if you want to grow up stronger as a vampire very quickly, the shortest way to that is just to kill a few guys. But each time you kill someone, you get damnation points. So it's the straighter way to hell as well. So you will always have to choose between the way you want to act as a human or as a vampire. There is no going back. You can not go to the previous saving game, you have to face all the consequences, and there will be different ending in the game according to what you did and how much doomed you are at the end of the game. So it's up to you all the time, but at the end, face your choices.
Who'll look after him now?
It's got a very strong narrative focus, this one.
Of course, yes. That's what we always did in Dontnod studio. We always try to focus on the narration and to give to the players an interesting storyline with strong characters.
So whilst we're parading around ye old London, are we going to bump into any other nasties?
Actually the hero will have to fight some very nasty enemies. Most of them will be humans, vampire hunters, who had many centuries to observe, to die, and fight vampires, and they have deployed a lot of specific combat technique because they know now how to fight against the immortals. But you will also meet a lot of supernatural creatures, some vampire just like you, some much more dangerous and much more rare creatures, and some what we call the skulls. They are lesser species of vampires, something of mutated vampires that perhaps has something to do with the Spanish flu. That will be part of your investigation.
What's important is that as a vampire, you start kind of high in the food chain. You have dominion over all the citizens of London. You can kill as you will, but you will face some large threats which are much higher than you on the food chain too. So.
That sounds really, really interesting, guys. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
My life has become a waking nightmare. I did not choose the thing I've become, but I can choose the lives I now take. Cursed be the choice.
We are celebrating 20 years of an icon. It's so amazing to reach a milestone like this, and we have so many things that we're doing for the fans and for the industry to celebrate not only Lara's impact on the world and pop culture, but also on the fans and the personal moments they share with her.
So it has been 20 years. How many games has Lara been in over those 20 years?
Well, there have been 13 main releases, but there are also some mobile games and there are plenty of tabletop things. I mean, it's amazing how many things Lara Croft has been a part of that even I didn't know about until we were actually researching all the things and all the ways that she's impacted the industry. But 13 major releases.
I didn't know that she'd been in novels. I knew about comic books, but there are actual proper books as well.
Absolutely. We actually have one that's coming out very soon. It's called Lara Croft and the Blade of Guinevere. So that's excellent. We just had Lara Croft and, Tomb Raider and the 10,000 Immortals. We have the Dark Horse comics. We got a new series as well as, ones that told the origin story. So there's a lot of ways that Lara has impacted not just games, but transmedia.
And of course, she's as a young girl growing up playing games, she's kind of iconic for us growing up too.
She is, and the thing that we always find is that people have these very personal stories with Lara Croft. And I remember, I was one of the people playing her on day one, on the PlayStation 1996. It was such an amazing moment. One of my favorites was always that swan dive, right? You make that huge swan dive. I'd never seen that in games before, and so that was always my Tomb Raider moment. And so we're actually inviting fans to share their Tomb Raider moments. If you go to tombRaider20.com, you can actually look at all the different programs we have going on. We have a fan art contest where fans can be immortalized, or they can have their art immortalized as part of the franchise. They can record a video testimonial about what Lara means to them. So it's all about finding those great little moments.
And of course, speaking of having fans immortalized, there are, of course, a number of cosplayers who are dressed as various eras of Lara.
Absolutely, and one of my favorite things, we've recently announced that we have a book, the 20 Years of Tomb Raider, and there's a huge section on it about our fans and the cosplayers, and the incredible amount of passion and detail that they pour into these costumes is just second to none in the industry, from what I can see.
Hi, I'm Lara Croft, and I'm here to tell you all about my new game, Tomb Raider 3. Most of you are probably thinking that I'll have new outfits to wear, vehicles to drive, and of course new locations to explore, and you'd be right. But Tomb Raider 3 also features a whole range of new effects that have been specially designed to make the game faster, smoother, more atmospheric, and well, more adventurous.
We shouldn't just be focusing on Lara. As amazing and wonderful as Lara is, and she is a hero to so many people, there is actually more to the game than just one character. Are we celebrating the worlds of Tomb Raider as well?
Absolutely. We just had a Square Enix Presents show where we celebrated the fans' top 20 tombs. You know, if you think about the pillars of Tomb Raider, and I'm really glad that you brought this up, Lara Croft is obviously central. You know, she's a cultural icon. Her story is what drives the universe forward. But when you talk about things that fans know, like tombs, if you talk about the fast-paced combat, talk about, you know, Lara using her intellect to solve puzzles or to whittle down the enemy, regardless of whether you're looking at it from the classic franchise or from the modern reboot with the more survival action flair to it, these pillars, these tenets of the Tomb Raider franchise are things that we can celebrate across both sides of the coin.
Because it did kind of revolutionize gaming. There are games out now that you go, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what Crystal Dynamics and the developers have done before that.
Absolutely. You look at what Core did with respect to the first games, you know, and I appreciate that. You look at what we tried to do with the reboot, and I think that there's a lot of great things. It's always fun to see the industry learning from each other. What have they always said? You know, there's only 4 movie scripts that have ever been written, right? So there's always influences. We get influences from other games that we love, and we love it when we influence other games.
So we are looking to the future. Obviously, the future PS4 is coming out. That's the next big thing. Are we looking any further than that yet, Rich? Is there anything we can talk about?
Well, Jessica, I can't answer it in any other way than to say we're always listening to our fans, and we are always thinking about where we want to take Tomb Raider as a franchise and Lara Croft as a character. And I can tell you that there are some very exciting things in store.
The divine source has to be there.
Hey everyone, Mike here with another visit to the Videogame Shoebox, and this week I'm responding to a request from Ben in the YouTube comments who wanted to see me cover a game from the Legend of Zelda series. So I've chosen a game that I haven't played since it was originally released for the Nintendo Game Boy all the way back in 1993. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. The Legend of Zelda is a long-running series beloved by millions of people across the world. The original game was released on the original Famicom and NES all the way back in 1986, and Nintendo has managed to keep it relevant all these years later by not being afraid to take risks and switch visual or gameplay styles, or allowing other developers to create spin-off but still canon portable titles such as Capcom, with the Oracle of Ages and Seasons games that appeared on a coloured version of Nintendo's portable powerhouse. The Zelda series has been spanning for the last 30 years of video games and has developed itself an overarching story across all of the titles. The lore of the series itself and the explanation of what game fits in where in its huge timeline would actually take up a full Player Attack episode, if not longer, so for now I'm just going to talk about this Game Boy classic. Link's Awakening is the fourth game released under the Zelda banner, and once again centers around the little hero in the green tunic, Link. I'm messing with the DX version, which came out for the Game Boy Color 5 years later and was also backwards compatible with the original model. It is mostly the same game, but with a couple of added bits like, color! And some puzzles that utilize this new feature. Fresh from saving the world in the Oracle of Ages and Seasons games, which would actually get released years later. See, I told you this was going to be complicated. Link is sailing away to hone his skills should the need for him arise again. However, a huge storm shipwrecks him on the mysterious Koholint Island, where he is taken to the house of Tarin and his daughter Marin to recover. Marin is fascinated by Link and the world outside of the small island, and tells Link that if she were a seagull, she would fly away and travel as far as she could across the sea. Eventually, Link recovers his sword, and the mysterious owl tells him that the windfish, Koholint's guardian, lies in slumber inside a huge egg and must be awoken in order for Link to return home. It can only be awakened by the 8 instruments of the sirens. The game progresses as you continue your quest to locate these 8 magical instruments, but during his search for the 6th instrument, Link finds himself in the ancient ruins where he finds a mural that details the reality of the island. It is merely a dream world created by the windfish, a fantasy made real by the immense magical power of the creature as it sleeps. After this shocker of a plot twist, the owl shows up again and tells Link that this is only a rumour, and only the windfisher knows for certain whether it is true. To know for sure, you'd have to wake the windfish. Wind Waker. Get it? Zelda? No? Okay. And save the other inhabitants of the island who were more than likely trapped in the same fantasy as you. The enemies around the island and the bosses guarding the instruments are pretty well justified in the story as nightmare creatures attempting to obstruct Link's quest for the instruments, as they wish to rule the windfish's dream world for themselves. After collecting the 8 instruments from the dungeons across the land, Link climbs to the top of Mount Tamaranch and plays the Ballad of the Windfish. The egg in which the windfish sleeps breaks open and Link enters, but there is one last evil being. A nightmare that takes the form of Ganon, the series antagonist, and other enemies from Link's past, sort of like a greatest hits of Zelda bosses up until this point. Its final form is Deathy, a one-eyed, tentacled shadow. After Link eventually defeats Gethy, that bloody owl shows up again and reveals itself to be the windfish's guardian. The windfish explains that the island of Koholint is all Link's dream and that he is the one that must wake up in order to return to his world. When Link plays the Ballad of the Windfish once more, both he and the windfish awaken. Koholint Island and all of its inhabitants slowly disappear. Link finds himself lying on driftwood in the middle of the ocean, exactly where he was left at the beginning of the game after the maelstrom wrecked his boat, the windfish flying overhead. If you played the game very, very well and managed not to lose any lives during the game, Marin is shown flying after the end credits finish, either in the form of a winged woman when playing in the original black and white format, or she takes the form of a seagull if played with colour in the DX version. A surprisingly poignant ending with just enough foreshadowing for it to be both satisfying and dreadfully sad at the same time. Was Marin trapped in a dream in the same way that you were? Or was she invented by Link's own imagination in order for him to not go mad on an island he cannot escape and to keep him focused on his quest? Did I, by waking the windfish, kill Marin? That's it for this visit to the Video Game Shoebox. Join me next time when I'll be dusting off some more cartridges. Be sure to let me know in the comments or on Twitter any games that you'd like to see get a retro regression session on here. I've been Mike Nottridge, and I will see you next time. What's in your Video Game Shoebox?
about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, Jonny's film review takes him aboard the zombie-filled train to Busan, while we head off to greener pastures as we chat about Farming Simulator 2017. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Also, if you want to support Player Attack, you can find us on Patreon and help us bring you the latest in gaming news, plus all these wonderful interviews and reviews from the world of video games. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.